Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted the number 1 would be Abigail, number 2 would be the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, number 3 would be Civil War, number 4 would be Godzilla and Kong the New Empire, and number 5 would be Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Big ol' goose egg this weekend. I actually can't believe that I got another goose egg. I feel like that was last weekend also. Crazy. I thought for sure. and some of you got close to getting your predictions right. Just, some of the movies were in the wrong order. Some of you didn't know, like me, that there was another film lurking in the background, ready to strike. Let's just go over what happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was actually, despite what I thought last weekend, it was Civil War. Now, you could say it had a little bit over a 50% drop, opening with 25 million last weekend. It's now sitting at 11 million, but I mean, the fact that it held over to be number 1, that's still pretty impressive. You know what I mean? Right now, domestically, it is sitting at 44 million for its grand total. For its domestic charts for Alex Garland, it has outgrossed Annihilation by 12 million, so it's his highest grossing film that he has directed. We're not including his written work where he didn't direct it, but it's his highest grossing film right now domestically. And then for A24's domestic numbers, it has outgrossed Midsummer and Moonlight by 17 million, Iron Claw by 9 million, and it just squeaked by Hereditary by a couple 100,000. It is now in the top 5 highest grossing domestic runs for A24. It's now 4 million behind Talk to Me, which came out last year. That's insane. That it's already about to outgross that one. Another popular A24 film in recent memory. A24, I mean, I say that as if they never have popular films. It's just that was a pretty recent one where people were like, man, it's, given Hereditary a run for its what, and now it's like, here comes the next film that is also doing that. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, as soon as it outgrosses that, it's going to be the number 4 highest grossing domestic run. I genuinely did not think this would be the one to do it, because I thought for sure there would be, I think I talked about this a little bit last week, and I thought for sure, any kind of potential controversy would sway people from seeing it, that liberal garbage, or, that God's not dead or left behind for liberals kind of talk. But no, here we go. It's actually doing pretty well for itself. I think it's in a new controversy now because it used AI posters, which sucks. Anyways, for the worldwide numbers, it is sitting at 48 million, so it bumped up a little bit more. It is about to cross over its initial production budget of 50 million, so they're not close to doubling it yet. But the fact that, this is their most expensive film to date, A24, and even if it doesn't double it, it's, ranking high up in its charts, and it is about to at the very least cross over the initial production budget. I think they can count this as a win, just not a complete one, if that makes any sense. For Alex Garland, it has outgrossed Men by 38 million, Ex Machina by 10 million, and Annihilation by 5 million. So even worldwide, it is Alex Garland's highest grossing directed film. And then for A24, as far as how that's doing, it is number 8 in the all-time worldwide runs for A24. It just outgrossed Midsummer by 2 million, now needs 2 million until it outgrosses Uncut Gems. So this movie's really killing it, and I didn't suspect that. I also didn't suspect number 2, Abigail, to open so low, because I thought for sure that there was a bit more of a buzz behind, this fun-looking new horror movie. And next weekend, it'll be interesting to see how things hold up and what new releases actually stand out, and we'll get more into that when we get to the predictions and of course next week's video. But I was really hoping for this to do better. Now, of course, it is just the opening weekend, and there's still a couple other places for it to be released worldwide, so it's not the complete end of the world, and the budget is only 28 million, which is not too bad in the grand scheme of things, but still, opening with $10 million, and worldwide it's only bumped up to 15 million. Not the strongest opening. I think I was looking for more of a home run right out of the gate. Maybe that's unrealistic of me. I don't know. I don't know. Either way, for the director's Radio Silence, it has outgrossed the opening weekends. So we're just talking about opening weekends right now. It outgrossed Ready or Not and Devil's Due by 2 million. Both of those movies opened to $8 million. But it is, of course, 20 million below Scream 5 and 34 million below Scream 6. Obviously, you're not going to be able to touch the franchise opening weekends. I was hoping it would get a little bit closer to that. Anyway, sorry. For Radio Silence, it now needs 5 million until it outgrosses Devil's Due. At the very least, it will outgross Devil's Due, their worst film. And also, I should probably preface that I'm not talking about like their collaborations either. So like Southbound or VHS, that's not included when I talk about their rankings as far as their domestic and worldwide runs, just because, you know, I just want to talk about solely their films as opposed to they had a little bit of a part in this. Anyways, for worldwide, it needs 21 million until it outgrosses Devil's Due. So yeah, I was hoping for a bit more of a stronger swing out of the gate. Maybe word will catch on that it's fun. But I don't think that early word of mouth that the trailers give away one of the the things they could have kept hidden, you know, that kind of narrative around the movie hasn't really helped. The fact that the trailer gives away too much. And I would say, you know, it's probably better to see that movie blind. It's probably better to see most movies blind. You know what I mean? But I mean, knowing what's going to happen at about 40 minutes in doesn't really hinder my experience with the film. I thought it was fantastic. Please go check it out. Sitting at number 3, we have Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. This one still holding over pretty solidly, and back-to-back Dan Stevens movies. One is doing a little bit better than the other one. This one made 9.4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 171 million. So for the Monsterverse, it has outgrossed Skull Island by 3 million, now sits behind the 2014 Godzilla by 29 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 485 million, so it's outgrossed Godzilla vs. Kong by 36 million. It now needs 44 million until it outgrosses Godzilla. So there you go, man. 2014 Godzilla for both domestic numbers and worldwide numbers. That's the one to beat right now. Pretty special, you know. It's also about to get to 500 million worldwide, which is, for any film that costs a lot of money, that's a pretty good sign, especially with this budget of 135 million. If it costs 250 million, getting to 500 million is fine, but it's not where you need to be. So yeah, this movie's kicking ass. So I'm glad people are enjoying it, even though I didn't particularly. Please also support the other Dan Stevens movie out. And then the other one that comes out later this year. Anyways, let's move on to number 4, which is The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. When we talk about the domestic numbers for this, the stats, we don't have a worldwide total to bump it up, but I only want to really focus on like the recent Guy Ritchie films. So that's post-Aladdin, not Aladdin, post-Aladdin. So let's talk about it. This weekend it made 9.02 million. This is on a budget of $60 million. For its opening weekend, it had 1 million below The Gentleman. So in the post-Aladdin Guy Ritchie world, The Gentleman is his highest opening weekend with 10 million. It is 1 million over Wrath of Man, 6 million over Operation Fortune, and 3 million over The Covenant. But the fact that only one of his films post Aladdin has reached like double digits, and it's not even like an impressive double digit, it's just 10. Now of course The Gentleman went on to have like a modest kind of hit, word of mouth kind of spread on that one, people enjoyed it, and they made a Netflix series to it, you know, based on it, connected to it, whatever. People seem to be enjoying that. So yeah, like that movie at least has some kind of legacy, and everything else here is like Wrath of Man was just a remake of another, like a foreign language film that nobody really talks about this one anymore. You know, Operation Fortune was forgotten, The Covenant was kind of forgotten. I can't really see this one either, despite the fact that there are some people who are like, yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. Yeah, it's like Guy Ritchie's Inglourious Bastard. I don't really seeing this one have a long kind of life either. Of course, we'll see in the coming weeks if it has a solid hold, you know, staying power like The Gentleman, but with a budget of 60 million. That's the thing also, is The Gentleman doesn't cost anywhere near 60 million. It is kind of interesting though that Guy Ritchie is, you know, he's been on a roll as far as making these movies back to back to back. You know, it's been like once a year except for 2022 because they had to delay Operation Fortune, but then that was just double Guy Ritchie that year. So yeah, interesting. Anyways, as far as the rest of his filmography, it has outgrossed Lock, Stock by 6 million. It is 9 million over Swept Away and Revolver, 4 million over Rock'n'Rolla, and 3 million over Operation Fortune. It now needs 7 million until it outgrosses The Covenant. So, you know, still nothing to write home about, but at least it's outgrossing some of the other lower earning films for Guy Ritchie. It's not going to be the absolute lowest, but come on, man. Number 5, Spy Family Code White. I didn't suspect this one sneaking around the corner. I've seen like the Fathom Event like trailer kind of play before movies, and for some reason I just didn't lock in like, remember this date in case a box office talk video comes up. You might want to remember it. It might be a big thing and you don't know about it. And of course I missed it. It snuck its way into the top 5, totally ruined my predictions. I mean, my predictions would have been ruined anyways, but still, it made 4.8 million this weekend. I'm not sure what the budget of this thing is, but worldwide it is sitting at a total of 44 million. So hats off to you. but I have nothing else to add because I didn't see the film. I'm not familiar with anything else regarding this. So let's move on to number 6, which is Kung Fu Panda 4, making 4.6 million, adding to a domestic total of 179 million. Needs 36 million now until it outgrosses the original film. Worldwide, it is sitting at 480 million, and it needs 26 million until it outgrosses Kung Fu Panda 3. So worldwide, it had just a little bit more of a boost, and it's gotten closer now to to this movie's worldwide goals of, at the very least, outgrossing one of the sequels. Domestically, as we've talked about, it's having a way easier time blowing through those other two films, and it's behind the first film now, but it blew through the other two. Worldwide, it's been kind of struggling, but now we're getting a little closer. So good job, Kung Fu Panda 4. Number 7 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, making 4.4 million, adding to a domestic total of 102 million. So at the very least, you can say domestically it has also crossed over its initial production budget of 100 million. That's something. It's still behind Ghostbusters 2, this time by 10 million, so it's still yet to outgross any other film in the franchise. Worldwide, it is sitting at 176 million, so 24 million off from actually doubling this budget and being considered, at the very least right now, a moderate hit, but it is still 27 million below Ghostbusters Afterlife, which, if you're making a sequel, you at the very least have to either double your budget or outgross the other film. You have to do one of the two things. If you do both, great, but you have to at least do one of these two things to guarantee that there will be more that people are interested in this. And it just seems like that is not happening here. Now, of course, maybe this movie also has a couple more places to be released, and maybe it'll bump it past the finish line. They are also working on a Ghostbusters Netflix show, so maybe they'll divert attention to that, just doing TV or something like that, just a different thing. I think that's the thing that I kind of pitched in one of these videos, or I kind of alluded to, is that one of the ways that Ghostbusters Afterlife did turn out to be successful when trying to win people back over is that the budget was cheaper, and so it was a moderate hit when they had a 75 million price tag, and it went on to make just a little over 200 million worldwide. But for some reason they thought, let's gamble it and just push it a little bit more, because the thing about Ghostbusters Afterlife is that it has its fans, but there are other people that are kind of yeah, I'm not sure I was all for that. I'm not sure I was for what that was going for in the grand scheme of things. So making a sequel and pumping more into that kind of, mentality of filmmaking where people are kind of for it or against it, maybe it wasn't the strongest pitch in the world. That's all. Let's move on to number 8, which is Dune Part 2, making 2.9 million, adding to a domestic total of 276 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 695 million, 5 million away from getting to 700 million worldwide, which is pretty damn cool. I love it when a movie is doing so well that there's nothing else to compare it to, just as far as compared to the stats, how's it doing? The biggest accomplishment here is that it's just about to pass another kind of milestone as far as 600 million, 700 million, so that's great. Nothing else to say. Number 9 is Monkey Man. Oh my god, probably the last time it's going to be here, which is a bummer. Like I've been saying, like I said it with Abigail and another movie we're going to talk about, I was kind of hoping for a bigger splash here. Made 2.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 21 million. It has, for Monkey Paw, outgrossed Keanu by 1 million, now sits behind Black Klansman by 28 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 26 million, so it's 51 million away from outgrossing Candyman, which it probably won't do, but more importantly, I think, it is 4 million away from tripling that $10 million initial production budget. So I think it will be able to do that, obviously, and that's going to be the bigger win here. I don't see this becoming a bigger thing. I think we talked about it also. Some people were just make, a series out of this, make your own John Wick series with this. Number 1, I don't think that's what the movie was really going for when you watch it. And number 2, I don't think the numbers here really justify that. John Wick, did solidly in theaters and then went on to have this great cult following, when it hit home video. People were talking about it so much, and people were man, I wish I saw this in the theater. And then that's what spawned the sequel, and that made more money, and then they were okay, that's enough for a third film, and then that made more money. You get what I mean here. Let's move on to number 10, closing out the video, The First Omen. Like I said, another one in this top 10 where I'm I wish that the word of mouth really caught on and that the numbers increased by a lot more. At the very least, the worldwide numbers bumped it up a bit, but it's about to exit the top 10 without us talking about it, crossing a doubling point. It made 1.7 million domestically this weekend, which adds to a domestic total of 17 million. It is still 3 million away from outgrossing The Final Conflict. Worldwide, it is sitting at 45 million, so 3 million away from the original film's worldwide run, and more importantly, 15 million from the doubling point. Maybe it'll get that money when it's out of the top 10. Any other places it needs to be released worldwide, potentially, or maybe because of the cult following and people praising it, once it hits home video, there will be a bigger boost and they can, consider themselves a success then. Either way, I wish this was a bigger theater hit, because it's definitely worthy of it. One of those horror prequels that is really good, like the Ouija Origin of Evil, for The Omen, I guess. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. We're looking at another weekend that kind of has an obvious winner, at least in my eyes, maybe. But it's not like Godzilla again, it's not like The Fall Guy, which is like the weekend after this, where it's like, obviously that's going to be number 1. So it's going to be interesting to see how things turn out, if there's any surprises. Number 1, I do think will be Challengers, though, just because there seems to be a little bit more of like a media hype surrounding it. Number 2, I think will be Unsung Hero, just because I don't know if the hype around this film rivals that of Challengers, but I think that movie is made for like a specific kind of audience that will turn up for the theater for it. Maybe it won't be the biggest numbers in the world, but it will be enough. And then number 3, I think will be Boy Kills World. This one will be interesting. I'm not sure how many people even know this is coming out, but I feel like I've seen this trailer quite a bit, and I feel like some people have been taken aback by the H. John Benjamin Bob's Burgers voice in it. So maybe they'll go check it out when they're like, I don't really want to see Challengers or Unsung here. I want to see an action film. There's Boy Kills World. It's a new one. Number 4, I think, will be Civil War. And then number 5, Abigail. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.